All right. To start, um, when I was a little kid, I used to live in this place long, long ago, and my very first experience with this was it kind of scared me. All right, it didn't make sense to me, and I've been called crazy for half the stuff I say, which I'm willing to accept by doing this. And I'm willing to accept that people are going to think this of me. Remember, these are testimonies of, of things I've experienced, but a couple of which you're gonna know that weren't just, made up or anything like that. These are actual things that happened in my life. So my very first one was long ago when I was like a very, very young guy. All right, a very young guy sitting in my room at night, and out of nowhere, I started hearing drum beats. And I didn't look out the window, but I started hearing drum beats. Like there was like it just sounded like an Indian tribe was like right near me. So that was one of the first major unique experiences. What's going on here? All right, so my first major one was the experience I had when I was a little kid. All right, and being that very young, um, I was sleeping and it was dead silence. And then out of dead silence, I started hearing like Native American drum beats. Now this could have also been just an experience from somebody playing music alongside the building I was in, but it just sounded like Native American drum beats were going off. No other type of music was blended in with this. It just like was a bunch of drum beats. So that was my first major experience. Now I wouldn't say that necessarily as godly, but I don't know what that one exactly would be. And still to this day, I don't really know much about that one. So the real experiences started happening in my late 20s or my early 20s, kind of like mid 20s or so. The real experiences started happening then. The wildest one I remember was this time I was at my job and I heard a coin drop. All right, and it was just like I looked around, there was nobody in the building, and then if I was working at a store, so a few minutes earlier, a guy had left. All right, and so I don't know. I don't think he dropped it, but who knows? Um, but at the same time, I kicked it, and I've never seen a coin like this in my life. But it was like this big, and it had an angel on both sides. It was called an angel token, okay? And it had some sort of archangel on it. So the fact that there was an archangel on this, I didn't really think much about it, but at that point in time, I was like, man, maybe I really need to start looking into finding Christ and God, and like not so much like around that time we had this event going on where this guy was going around on the news and he was just like, well, the world's gonna end at this time of day on this day. And I was skeptical about it. I was like, I don't think anything's gonna actually happen. But I was at work when this happened, and like I remember looking at the clock and I was like, well, nothing's going on. And as soon as I looked at the clock, I had this really weird experience where I had felt like in the midst of standing up that I got dragged out of my body. My soul had been dragged out of my body and I felt weightless, and I saw this giant glowing light that talked to me. All right. And the giant glowing light that had talked to me asked me the question who I wanted to survive. Now, granted, remember, the world was supposed to end on this time of day. So after having that experience and talking with this giant gold light, I answered it, and I basically answered who I wanted to survive. So I gave it the answers: friends, family, really close people to me like that. And then right after I answered this question, I returned. Everything went back to normal and I was still standing. So I don't know. I mean, I know that is a testimony right there, but that was just a wild experience in my life, and it was a really bizarre and unique experience that I can't even begin to explain. But it felt like I was dead for a few seconds, and then I came back to life at the exact same time. So it's like time stood still at that point in time, and who knows what actually happened. But I found it really bizarre and strange. Now, after that experience, I had other experiences that were much deeper like that, but not to that level. So, another spirit experience I remember after that was an experience that the coin that I held, I kept it in my wallet. The angel coin was in my wallet the whole entire time, and I looked inside my wallet, and the coin was just gone. It was no longer existent, no longer relevant. It just wasn't there. And I was like, well, maybe I'll find it somewhere. And still to this day, I still don't know where that thing went. It was gone. I don't know what happened to it. I don't think somebody took it from me, but it was just extremely weird that I had it and then non-existent anymore. So that was the next experience. So after that, I didn't really put too much effort into trying to seek God at that point because I just had a lot going on in my life, and I witnessed this really strange drift apart between me, my family, and the people, which, really, it's just really weird. And like, I can't even consider talking to them now because of just, I don't think I'm supposed to be back in their life. I think something happened on that day that, only God knows what happened. And, maybe something was supposed to happen to me and I chose to walk away from, you know, them because that's what God wanted for me. Now, you know, it's just this is just hard to take in, but maybe there was something that was supposed to happen to me to that day. I honestly don't know, and life's been very weird since that very moment because it just gets crazier and crazier. So, there was a point in time back a few years ago that had I had been standing with a group of people after I was so I was going to church at the time, and I was just standing around with a group of people, and they were praising the word of God. They were praising the word of God, and this wasn't anything really, really that big of a deal. But what I did notice is that the people that were around us, like, they were spread far away from us, like there was a giant bubble on us. And maybe this just could be me, but it just looks like there was a giant bubble on us, okay? And I've been reading the Bible, I've been diving into church, I've been going to church and all that kind of stuff. And this happens every single time I read the Bible. These crazy things always happen to me. So there was that one, and I pointed out to my friend, I was like, do you see what's going on around us? How, like, there's a big circle around us that's pushed far away, and people are just, like, standing away from us? Do you actually see that? And on top of it, at that time, I walked downtown and I ended up running into the guy who was preaching the word of God. So that was what made it even more interesting, is like right before I was standing there talking with him and standing there praising the word of God, I ran into him in downtown. I did not know he was there, but he looked shocked to see me. He just looked really shocked. And it's just one of those experiences, like, I didn't even know that person was going to be in downtown. I just ended up so happened to be there and walked around, and and I just came out of nowhere, and it had to have shocked them. And I've done that to a few people where, when it comes to that kind of stuff, I'll show up because that's where I was supposed to be at the time. I guess that's what God makes me do things, and I can't explain it, but I just go with the flow, and then God will lead me to where I need to go. So that's why I normally end up in these really bizarre positions where it looks like, I may have been trying to figure out where you are, but reality of the truth is I went to downtown and I didn't even think anything of it. I honestly, I didn't think anything of it. I just randomly showed up, and as he was preaching the word of God, I saw this huge gigantic bubble, not bubble, but like a metaphorical bubble pushing everybody out that wasn't supposed to be in there. So you saw very few people within it, which meant, what to me that metaphor back was that a lot of people were sinning at that point in time, and the people that weren't sinning and the people that were in downtown were here. Or maybe that was just the giant bubble from God protecting us, making sure nothing was happening to us. Just metaphorically speaking, but it did seem that way. So, um, after that, I had another unique experience, which was I was going to college at the time. I did not get to finish college, and I'll go in, and I never got to finish college, so that's one thing that I did do is, I don't know, maybe I wasn't supposed to go to college, and my friend persuaded me to. But I believe that I was doing stuff the right way that I was told, and I just didn't proceed with some of it. And there's sometimes you'll see me try to like specify to people and talk to people and try to explain, hey, you might not be doing this the right way. You might want to try to listen to God a little bit more and try to follow through with what his wishes are. And a lot of people have trouble with that. A lot of people have a lot of trouble with that. And the reality of the truth is, it's very hard for people to listen to God, and that's something I specified. And there's a lot that you'll learn from me on this channel, that a lot of these testimonies are stuff that I've seen and dealt with and done. And so there was another point. I was in school, and right before class started, I had this moment where the lights in the parking lot were just lit. All right. And I kid you not, there was this like bursts of energy that I could feel. I could literally feel like this really weird burst of energy within my stomach. It was just bizarre. It felt like so out of place, but I could feel it. And then it exploded and shot out, and all the lights around me just shut off. And I was like, what was that? And it just it was bizarre. But I was literally in the parking lot when this happened at night, and all the lights just shut off. And this isn't the first time I've seen lights shut off around me. I've seen plenty of lights shut off around me. I'll walk down the street sometimes and I'll see a light, but this was different. This was like, I literally felt like the lights exploded. That's what it felt like, and that was a really bizarre experience too. So there's more. There's more coming soon, but um yeah, it's one of those things that like you just really can't predict when things like this are going to happen, especially to somebody like me. Now, I've had people tell me stories very much similar to this, but theirs are like more like I had a guy tell me something that happened to him, and I'm like, that makes a lot of sense. So, I have a bunch of other ones to tell. So, my next one was I was working at a job, and I was on my way home, and I was crossing the crosswalk, and I got hit by this car. That's why my shoulder's still messed up. I got hit by this car. All right. And a vision popped up in my mind of a really bizarre looking like star. All right, a very really bizarre looking star. And the star spoke to me. He said, "It's not your time to go yet." And then, you know, and I just remained focused and I kept like going, but like I literally think I was supposed to go that day. That's another experience I had where I think I was supposed to go to that day, and that never happened. I got taken to the hospital, went back to work, and then man, there was a guy there that really ticked me off, and he and I got into it, and I told him, I was like, "Look, dude, you don't stop messing with me. God will do something here really soon." And then sure enough, a few minutes later, and this was at the same job I was working at from the time with the incident where the star had happened, and I think I was supposed to go that day, but it didn't happen. God's like, "Nope, not today." Um, so I ended up. This guy was he was picking on me. He kept bullying me. He kept picking on me, and that's what a lot of people do. They pick on me, they bully me, and I get tired of it. So I remain at peace. I try to remain at peace, but when God sees me getting picked on, God works. God does what he needs to, okay? So I told him, I was like, look, if you don't stop doing what you're doing, God's going to do something. And then about a few seconds later, lightning strikes the telephone pole. So a big burst of lightning literally struck right near um a transformer, a high-powered transformer on a telephone pole. Lightning just struck it. And he looks at that and he looks at me, and he looked at me like I was crazy, and I was like, "Nope, I'm not. Like, I'm literally not joking. This is the kind. Like, I'm like, literally, you just messed with me. You pissed me off, and what happens when you piss me off is like, God sees that. God doesn't like that, and He does do stuff to people when He sees them upsetting me. In fact, I will say this: I'm the only one I know that has the capacity to let people know, and then a few seconds later, bam, it happens. Because I know God is real. I've experienced it before. Go back a few minutes earlier in this video, and that's what God is. So, that was one of the many, and then I have. I'm trying to think. I know I have more than that, but these are the biggest. These are the biggest, most interesting ones I've seen so far. You know, um, trying to think. Another one I can remember, and this one was from recently, but there was an incident where I was literally reading the Bible. I was in the middle of the Bible at work, and I told a coworker, we got into talking about being blind, and I was like, I wouldn't know what being blind looks like. And a few seconds after I said that, I had a vision pop in my head of like the guy that looks like Jesus Christ wearing a red cloak. He's squinting, and then you see beams of like weird rays coming out of his eyes. And then I saw through the eyes of him, and the eyes showed me something. And it looked like, I guess this was God showing me what it is like to be blind. So it was just, you take a light bulb or whatever and put it up close to your eye with multiple colors. And that's what being blind looks like. It's just a very, very close up to the light kind of thing. You're going to see the colors. You're just not going to be able to see things clear. That's what being blind look like. So technically, blind people still see all the colors and shades of everything, but they can't see it clear like we do. And that's the purpose of, that was the purpose of that. I think when these things happen to me, they really speak out to me in a way of like, I tell people about what happens to me all the time. There's plenty more than that. But those were my most memorable testimonies. And if you are watching me and you have a testimony of your own, stick it down in the comment section. That stuff's really cool to hear. And these are just what I have for now. I don't know if I'm going to be making another one, but I will try to record as many of my testimonies as I can for you guys and make short videos on them. But I have a lot of really unique experiences due to, me endorsing God in my life. And people call me crazy all the time, and I'm willing to just accept that. But there are people legitimately in my life that don't seem to understand, and they don't want to let things go, and they don't want to believe stuff. So all I can really do is sit here and read the Bible and spread it to you guys. And if my family and people from my past don't want to believe in God, or they try to take what I do and say they believe in God, because I can already tell you there's people intruding into my world right now that I already know that don't read the Bible, but I don't want to say it to them because they try to correct me and try to make me feel like I'm wrong. All right? And that's what these people are meant to do. They'll take quotes from the Bible pretending they read the Bible. Like my stepbrother, I don't know if he reads the Bible, but sometimes I'm skeptical about if he does. I'm skeptical about if he's saying it just to get attention. And I'm not trying to set anybody off here, but there are times I feel that with people because, knowing them as I grow up and all that, I don't see them anymore. So what are you doing trying to intrude in my YouTube account here, stuff like that. So the way I look at it is like, if this is him returning, well, then that's on him. But I will say this: I'm not here to be idolized. I don't want people also taking God away from me. And that's what people are bound to do. They're trying to take God away from me because they don't want to believe that having, and I'll state this for the outro: having guns, having cars, having motorcycles, having money. That doesn't make you bigger than God. Stop expecting to be respected by people. All right? You are not God. Just because you have those things doesn't mean you are liable to get anything great out of life. Just remember, what God does for you is a blessing. And if you think having motorcycles, cars, guns, money is a blessing, you're dead wrong. And that's what upsets me about the human beings, is they don't believe in anything outside of objects like what we have around us. And they never will. And it's amazing because I have people condemning me, trying to push me away from this because they're tired of seeing me being blessed. But you know what? I'm going to keep going at it. I'm going to keep doing good. I'm going to keep upsetting people with the graces of God, and I'm going to remind them, just because you have all those cars, guns, and whatever, it doesn't mean you're more important than anybody. Just remember that. And that's where I call this. So, again, if you have a testimony, please specify it down below, and I would like to talk to you more about it. All right. And with that said, guys, I'm out of here. Take it easy and have a wonderful day. Merry Christmas. And also, if you like this content, please hit the like button. Please subscribe to the channel, and I'll be seeing you next time. Take it easy.